Teaching Blast technical seminars are an Intertech production. For instructor-led .NET, Java, and XML courses, visit us at www.intertech.com.
So fundamental integration, we know that we have to create a package. That's ultimately the output whenever we're working with SSIS, is to create that DTSX package. And we do that right from Visual Studio. Remember, Visual Studio actually comes with SQL Server 2005 or 2008. And in 2008, when you install SQL Server, one of the options is to install BIDS, Business Intelligence Development Studio. And so what you do is you actually create a project that is an SSIS project, and you'll notice that you can add any number of packages to it. While you're editing that one package, the designer will show you the control flow. You only have one control flow per package, and as I said, that's our backbone. But in the control flow, we can have any number of data flows, because one of the tasks that can be dragged and dropped onto the control flow is that data flow. Our packages can work with any number of variables, whether the variable is defined within the package, maybe even within a container or at the task level, or we can even inherit packages, or I should say package variables, from parent packages. When we have several packages that need to run together, you may want to define one Uber parent package whose sole job is to call a bunch of other packages in a synchronous fashion. There's a lot of really cool things we could do with SSIS. And again, this is just about running a huge, any number of tasks. There are many tasks available. As well, making sure that everything runs smoothly, or monitoring it and knowing when something doesn't run so smoothly. We do have different ways of handling events as well. So the inputs are any number of tasks in the toolbox, including custom-built tasks. Now, most of the time, you're going to find that all the tasks included in the toolbox are going to give you all the capabilities you need. And if you really do need some custom capability from a particular task in the toolbox, you can by all means go ahead and write a custom script task. We actually have a script task where it allows you to write some C# or VB code to go ahead and do some unique functionality. Creating your own custom-built tasks is obviously an advanced programming functionality, and it is supported, by the way. Microsoft wants you to do this. They've published the APIs out there, but it's not going to be extremely easy, especially if you don't have a lot of programming experience. So that's why they gave us a script task that we can use for that. As well, keep in mind the inputs are going to be those data sources. Continuing on here, working with those tasks, we drag them onto the control flow, which is really the package itself. Even where it says the word package there, that really means you're dragging and dropping those tasks into that control flow. And of course, then one of the control flows that we have, notice the other brown box there, one of our other tasks that we have is the data flow. That data flow can have any number of transformations inside of it. And then ultimately, we can take that package and go ahead and publish it off either to the file system or to the SQL Server database. They can actually hold packages as well. Working with connection managers. The connection managers, of course, are just the connections to our sources and our destinations. And of course, we can work with any number of log providers as well. We cover that in this course as well. All of the stuff that you're looking at, we actually cover directly in the class. Now, before I continue on, I've talked about this package, control flow, data flow. How does this all mend up in BIDS? Let's take a look at that. So I'm going to switch over to Visual Studio 2008, or if I'm a BI developer, this is called BIDS. As I said before, BIDS is really just Visual Studio. The key is when I choose to create a brand new project, notice I'm looking at business intelligence projects. This is BIDS, and notice the different types of projects that I have as well. Those are the three different types of projects which, of course, align with the three different forms of BI that SQL Server includes, SSIS, IS, and RS. For example, these first two are AS, these here are IS, and of course these three down here for RS. That's what we get right out of the box with SQL Server. Now typically you're installing SQL Server Standard Edition, Enterprise Edition. If you're a developer, by all means, you probably want to be working with Developer Edition because that has all the same functionality as the full Enterprise Edition. There are a few tasks, for example, or transformations, I believe, that are missing from the standard edition of SQL Server that you don't get with standard that you would normally get with enterprise. So I always recommend that developers, your BI developers, you always work with developer edition. You can buy developer edition of SQL 2008 for $50 on newegg.com. Not an advertisement, but just letting you know there's just ways of getting the developer edition quite cheaply. So what I might want to do is actually choose the integrated services project. Notice the other choice that I have here is connections. That's a really poor name for it, guys. This really means you just want to pop open a wizard and have it hold your hand a little bit as you create your first package if you're not used to that. It helps you pick out your source and your destination. That's what they mean by connections. And you should have called it a wizard, really. I mean, that's what they called this other one right here. Notice the description here. It just tells you, yeah, you're going to create the project using a wizard. So anyways, I'm going to just go ahead and create one from scratch here with Integration Services Project. Notice it's going to be called Integration Services Project 7. That's because I got 6 other garbage ones I've been working on. Now when I create this project, if you haven't worked with Visual Studio before, it's going to be a little bit daunting to see this entire UI. There is a lot here, I understand that. But that's because Visual Studio has to support so many different types of projects. Not only is it supporting the 3 different types of BI projects, but this is a primary development environment for all .NET developers, whether they're creating WPF applications, web applications, Silverlight applications. This one UI has a lot to it. So that's why there's a lot of different drop-down menus, but oftentimes, to be honest, that's just more than one way to do the exact same thing. We have one project showing up here, and it's contained within a solution. Solutions act as containers for projects, and you can have any number of projects within the one solution, but you can only have one solution open at a time. If you need to have 2 solutions open, open up 2 Visual Studios. There's nothing wrong with that. Visual Studio runs side by side quite nicely. Now within this solution, I've got this one project, and it happens to contain one package. Unfortunately, this package name is pretty weak. So oftentimes the first thing I do is rename the package, right? I'll come in here and I'll right click and choose rename, and I'll give it a good name. Oh, I don't know. Let's see, I'll call mine Tuesday because it happens to be Tuesday today. Hit enter. And then it's asking me if I want to rename the internal package object as well. Here's my recommendation, folks. Always say yes, especially if you ever have to manipulate this package later on. It's just always the best practice to say yes when it asks you this. It's very tough to change that later on. Now, as I said, all this package is really just an XML file. If I actually wanted to see it, I can just right-click and view code. And here it is. There's my machine name, that's me, and there's a bunch of other settings in here. Now, if I want to be a hardcore package programmer, I'm just going to live in this world. That's a fantasy world. This is ridiculous. Nobody's going to write packages in here. You may want to go in here and tweak something. I understand that. That makes a lot of sense, or understand how something's working. But for the most part, I don't want to edit my package this way. So I'm going to go ahead and close that view. Instead, what I want to use is this fantastic designer they've given us here. Now notice right away, we do have the one tab for control flow. This is the only control flow we have in this one package. I can certainly go ahead and add new packages if I want, right? Or migrate even DTS 2000 packages. That's cool. You know, you don't always want to migrate them. Sometimes you want to leave them just the way they are because they're rock solid. Well, don't worry. We actually have a task to go ahead and call those. This is that huge list of tasks I was talking about. There's a lot of different tasks here that, of course, can help us with moving data from one or more sources to one or more destinations, helping us along the way. But there's one task here that's just sitting amongst all the others like, you know, he's just like, oh no, I'm no big deal, I'm just another task. Not really. This guy right here, the data flow task, actually is a very important task because that's what brings us to the data flow tab. The data flow task is actually the one that's going to be in charge of actually doing ETL transformations. And what we do is we drag and drop this guy onto your form, and then what we can do is edit him. Now inside of him is where we actually choose our sources, our transformations, and our destinations, and you will see that we can have many transformations added to it. Now when I open these guys up, try not to double click the words because it tries to rename it for you. Instead, always double click the icons themselves. It just makes a lot more sense and it's a lot easier. That's your target there for your mouse cursor, if you will. Also, make sure you name these things. What's this thing supposed to be doing? Give this thing a good name. It's very important to name your task because you'll come back to this 6 months from now and you'll wonder, what the heck does that task do? Or if you get over 40 like me, you'll wonder next week, what the heck was that supposed to do again? Anyways, when you double click it, you'll notice right away at the top, we changed over to the data flow tab. And the toolbox woke up and said, oh, we're in the data flow. Okay, well, here we go. We've got sources up here. We got destinations down here. And we got transformation shapes. Notice these fuzzy ones? Those are enterprise only, by the way, or developer edition like I'm running. These are the ones that you can use for actually doing your transformations, moving data from one source to another. Note that you can even change to other data sources that might be on your control flow, but just by changing them here in the drop-down menu. Like for example, back over here in the control flow, I could go ahead and add some more data flows. There's no reason I can't do this, right? And they don't have to connect to each other. Mind you, it's not going to run in a synchronous fashion based on the position of these controls. Not unless I put them into a specific container, like a sequence container. Only then would they run first this task, then this task. And as well, I got to point out, see, I can put these guys inside of here. It's pretty cool. And then notice how I can connect them. Only now will this one run first, and then this one will run because they happen to be in this container.
For more free learning resources and to see the latest lineup of our instructor-led .NET, Java, and XML courses, visit us at www.intertech.com.